Hello, everyone. So I'm the Jody Saver, and welcome back to my channel. So we've got episode 4 of the Let's Chat About Money podcast. Before I begin, I'll just flag that I'm not a financial advisor. So I'll be talking about some finance topics, but it's not shouldn't be classed as advice. So I've got a very exciting guest today. So I've got the Slicer Jess. So Jess is a content creator who's based in Newcastle. She's got 25,000 subscribers on YouTube and 50,000 followers on Instagram. And just to take the bio a bit of her YouTube, she describes herself as a YouTube channel, I should say, as random parts of her life captured on video. So, Jess, is there anything that you want to add to that description?
Well, first of all, hello, thank you so much for having us on. I'm really excited to be here. In terms of like my YouTube, sometimes people ask me what my niche and stuff is. I don't really have a niche, if I'm honest. It's just whatever I'm doing, I just bring a camera along. Do you know what I mean? And just stick it on the internet, and for some reason people watch it.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah, and your most popular videos have all been about very much lifestyle. So it's decluttering, what you eat in a day, solo holidays. That seemed to, I've been following you for a while. That seemed to kind of blow up quite a bit when you went on these solo adventures, which were really interesting to follow. But I'm sure we'll come on to that as we go through the chat. Great. So we're going to be chatting about money, but I think where we want to start is just about content creation itself. So I don't know how familiar listeners are with the concept of creating content online and potentially getting paid for it. But I just thought we could maybe take a step back and think about, like, how did you get started with content creation in the first place?
Well, I had an account on Instagram for ages and ages that I never really posted on. And then I think probably the same with a lot of people is lockdown happened, 2020. And I just started posting what I was eating. It was food pictures only. There was I wasn't on it at all. And it just kind of grew from there. I think I started posting in the May of 2020. And I think by the end of June, I want to say I had my first 10,000 followers, which was
Wow.
mad for me. But I kind of figured that during that first lockdown, people were either gaining weight or losing weight. So food content was very, very popular at that time. And then I just kind of carried on from there and just posting food content for a while. I think I started my YouTube channel in the September, I think, of 2020, just because people had been messaging me saying, I would love to see how you make this, and would love to see more kind of visual recipes and stuff. So I thought, sure, I'm going to start my channel. Got myself a camera and set it up very awkwardly, talking about things, and it just kind of grew from there. I mean, I did actually have a YouTube channel when I was about 14.
Right.
So I did upload a couple of videos when I was early teens, thinking I was going to be the next Zoella, but terrible makeup videos. They didn't last very long. I think they were only up for about a couple of days, and then I deleted them, so never seen again. But and then I started my YouTube channel, and I think luckily, because I did already have quite a large following by that September on Instagram, that people kind of gravitated towards over it. And then I kind of switched over to lifestyle. I want to say 2021 was when I switched over. And it's just been, just growing from there. So
very interesting. I love that. Easter egg, if you want to call it that, of your history of having a YouTube channel when you were much younger. How did you feel about putting yourself online on video? And because I know when I started posting videos, and it's just my voice, how I felt a bit exposed and thinking, oh, if someone going to find this, are they going to take the mickey out of it? And I'm not even on video. So how did you feel about that step of being vulnerable, for the world to see?
Well, funnily enough, it's one of those things for me, and I don't think it's like, even now, I don't think it really sinks in that people actually watch, like real life people watch it. And I think especially during that first lockdown when everyone was inside, there wasn't really much chance that I would go out and people would be like, "Oh, I've just seen you post a terrible video on YouTube."
Yeah.
So it kind of, to me, I was like recording these videos, and it was almost like my own personal video diary that I was just kind of posting. And like I could see it was getting views, but that didn't kind of like translate to actual people in my mind.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like when like occasionally people will come up to me and say like, "Oh, I watch your videos and things," and I like, it takes me aback a bit, like even now, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, like actual people do watch it. So like I kind of just like, I think I just block it out, if I'm honest, that like people do actually watch, because for me it's just me and my camera, and that's it. There's no like actual audience like behind, like, or in front of me watching, so it doesn't really correlate for me.
Because I guess if you were like an actor or a musician, and you had all these people, watching you, you'd know about it, you'd be on a stage, you'd see them. But yeah, I guess it's just a number on a screen on YouTube or Instagram. Yeah. And so you mentioned that your Instagram following grew very quickly. Was that the same story for your YouTube? Did that sort of snowball quite quickly?
I would say it was a little bit slower. Just, I think, I don't really know why, but like, I think obviously I did get quite a few people coming over from Instagram, but I think it took me from the September to, I want to say early January was when I'd maybe hit my first 1,000 subscribers. So it did take a little bit longer, but to be honest, in the YouTube kind of spectrum, like that is quite quickly, because sometimes it can take like months, if not years, for people to get like a couple of hundred subscribers. So it did grow quite quickly, but in comparison to my Instagram, it didn't really. I think it wasn't until I started doing, I think one of my declutter videos went, quite viral, and then my solo holiday ones, that really bumped up my subscribers as well. I think because one of the videos was noticed by the Times, and they ended up writing an article about it. So I think I got some people from there as well. So it was kind of like summer of 21, no, 22. I'm terrible with what years things happened, I feel whatever year we're allowed to go back out and go on holiday and things, that was kind of the year where it really, like, I started to gain a few more quite quickly.
So did you find it a bit mad that the Times saw the video and wrote an article about it?
Yeah, well, they emailed me first to see if I would answer some questions about it, and I thought it was a scam at first. I was like, this is a scam. They're going to ask my credit card details in a minute. But yeah, no, it was mad.
Wow. And so I know at the moment you balance creating content with also having a job, like a paid employment sort of job. But there was a time when you were content creating for full time. So how did you decide to make that leap into creating it full time?
I think it just got to the point where I was earning enough each month consistently to, and I also, so I'd saved a bit of money as well to fall back on, so that if I did kind of desperately need to get another job, then I would have some money to last me like a couple of months, so that I would have the time to do that. And I kind of thought, I'm earning roughly the same amount each month. I had been for quite a while, and I thought, it's just give it a go. That, the worst that can happen is that I have to go back on Indeed and apply for a few more jobs. But it was just something that I just thought, if I don't try it now, then I'll never do it.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting perspective, because I've talked to a few people and on this podcast, and they've talked about taking chances and risks when you're young, because I think if you've got that mindset when you're younger, you can sort of think, oh, well, if it doesn't go to plan, I've got plenty of time to get another job and figure it out, so it does, it's obviously paid off for you that you took a risk, and you managed to grow your audience as well, definitely. And yeah, so just in terms of creating money online, and we had a chat before started recording this just to say, you're free to share as much or as little as possible, but can you maybe break it down for the audience of how a content creator makes money online?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty open book. I'm pretty transparent when it comes to these things, because I think sometimes it's important that you are, especially when it's a field that's so varies so much as to how much people earn and things. But I would say I have three maybe main sources of income. The first being Google AdSense, which is the money that you make from YouTube. The second would be brand deals, probably. I think I never quite realized how much brands would give someone who is stood in their room with a phone or a camera or something to just make an ad for and stick it online, and then they pay you all this money. I never realized how much you could earn from that. And then so I do those ones, and then a little bit in affiliate marketing. So links to things, you get a small commission from either clicks or purchases. I occasionally do a bit of that, but that's the three main things that I would say come most regularly in my bank account.
And which one would you say is your biggest income stream? Is it AdSense or brands?
I would. It's difficult because I would say that consistently it would probably be AdSense, but then if I were to probably look at a quarter of the year and calculate how much brands, although they're not as often, the amount of money is probably equal to, if not a little bit more. So it would probably be between the AdSense and the brand deals.
Okay. And in terms of YouTube AdSense, are you able to give any sort of indication of, your size following, you've got 25,000 subscribers on YouTube. I think, your biggest videos, you're getting nearly 100,000 views, and then the sort of regular ones, is it maybe 10 to 15,000 views, maybe?
Yeah, roughly around there.
So on a sort of average video, what's the sort of ballpark of how much you might get from that?
So I would say probably from my regular uploads, I would roughly around £200 per video, I would say. Obviously that's kind of calculated over time. So, sometimes I'll notice that in my monthly payment from them, it's randomly gone up, and I'll have a look back and it'll be a video from 6 months ago has randomly started gaining traction. So my biggest or most watched video, the declutter one, I think it's got 170,000 views, I think, on it. And that didn't really take off at all, really, at first.
All right.
But then it wasn't until probably 6 or 7 months later that it started to get loads of views. And that's probably the video that I've earned the most on. But it wasn't straight away. It was 6 to 8 months later when I actually saw that. So it's difficult to kind of work out where your money's really coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the benefit of you create those videos now, and then every month, even though you are still creating new videos, you are gaining views on those old videos, and they can sort of snowball. You can sort of make money from them each month. And I guess as you said, the hope is, or one of the benefits of YouTube is that one video can take off all of a sudden, and I'm guessing in your side you got a really nice surprise when you saw that your YouTube income had increased one of the months.
Yeah, but I think in terms of, I think it's the solo holiday videos that I notice roughly around maybe March, April, May-ish start to get a bit more traction again, because that's when people are thinking, I really need to go on holiday, and people are thinking, oh, well, I might go alone, and they look for that kind of video. So I do notice that they tend to get a lot of watches as the years, every year, as opposed to my normal videos probably get their typical amount of views, and then that's about it. But then the ones that people keep searching every year are the ones that I notice a bit kind of gaining a bit more. So
yeah. Interesting. And what would you say, because this is one of the bits I'm interested in, because I know there's a lot of speculation, the right word? There's a lot of theories online when people see content creators and they're like, someone's doing it full time. People have a lot of thoughts about the money side of things, and that I think there's probably a lot of misconceptions or myths about the money side of things. So what do you think one of those are? What do you get frustrated at when you see comments about?
There's a couple of things, I think. The first being that I think people assume that you just start making money out of nowhere. Whereas, like, you know, like I touched on earlier, sometimes it can take like months, if not years, for people to even reach the stage of being monetized online. So it's a lot of free work, really. There's a lot of hours and stuff that goes into it prior to even earning a single penny, which I think people don't really think about when they see these people earning all this money online. They think, oh, well, they've just been, you know, given all this money for doing like barely anything. But if you probably look back like 5 years, you'll see the stuff that was never seen and the stuff that like they produced and put online before like they started to gain traction and stuff. So I think that's probably one of the things that I think people don't think about. And then in terms of justifying the amount of money that some influencers do get paid, the way I see it is that as a content creator, you're kind of a one-man band. So you're the video creator, you're the production, you're the editing, you're the sound, you're, you know, in some cases the actress, or like whatever you're doing, like it's all on one person. And if you would think about, if you cut down, like if you separate out, if you were to employ an individual person for each one of those roles, it would end up costing a heck of a lot more money than hiring one content creator to do the lot. And sometimes, you know, ads and things don't take very long. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they take, you know, quite a while. So like, I think I'd just done a skincare one, which I had to start using the product back in November. So like, it's, you know, it's a number of months worth of like work and making sure that I'm getting kind of the results that the brand are going to want, and keeping like diaries of stuff. And also I think when you think about how many people are on the internet now in terms of like viewers and consumers, I personally take more notice of stuff I see online than I do in the TV adverts.
Yeah.
So like when there's a break in something that I'm watching, that's when I'll be like getting up and putting a load of washing on. I'll be doing the dishes or something and waiting for the program to come back on. Whereas when I'm sitting scrolling through my phone, I'm more likely to consume that advert because like, I don't know, it's just something that I'm paying more attention to. So if you think of the value side on that side of it, then the brand's getting probably a lot better value for money. And I think sometimes people don't quite understand that part of it, and they just think, oh, well, she's getting paid to dance around in her kitchen.
Yeah.
And they think it's unfair. But yeah, I mean, if it was offered to you, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess the great thing about the internet and the opportunities is that if someone's sitting at home and thinking, oh, well, that looks easy, well, they can have a go at it. They can try
exactly.
and do it.
We'll do it then.
Yeah. So it's not as if you've just been someone's knocked on your door and said, oh, do you want to do this? Post a video every week and I'll give you this much money. You know, that hasn't happened. As you said, you've had to build it up over time.
Yeah.
And my understanding, I guess, from watching you and other content creators is, I guess, if you try doing it as a full-time gig, and you've touched on the fact you're like the one-man band, I guess the other side of it is that you have to suddenly upskill yourself on the business side of things. So, you know, accounting, you know, all the, you know, how to get payments from brands, all that sort of thing. So how did you find that side of things? Did that come naturally to you, or was there a lot of
not at all
upskilling?
To be honest, I mean, it'll be coming up soon, the dreaded tax return. But I would say I'm very lucky in the sense that my parents owned their own business. So they have a lot of knowledge in that kind of thing. They're not qualified accountants either, but they have done it for several years. So I do get a lot of help from them in terms of my accounting side of it. And I also use QuickBooks, which helps. And then I've also actually started a course on the Open University,
Ah.
It's a free course as well. There's quite a lot of free courses on the Open University that I didn't realize. And that's on kind of like business accounting and stuff. So you're not a certified accountant by the end of it by any means. It's just a course that you can do as and when you're free. There's no deadlines, there's no essays or anything like that, but it's just going to kind of educate yourself. So that's what I've kind of been doing on and off for the last little while, just to try and get my head around it. But it is a lot more than what people think. Like, as somebody who's like more of a creative person rather than that kind of side of a business, like it is something quite or it can be something quite daunting, because all of a sudden, you know, the HMRC are like, right, you owe quite a lot of money to us, so when you like we need to organize the payment, you're like, okay, right. But yeah, it has been quite an adjustment, because it's just something that I knew was coming eventually, but making sure that you get it right, because I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I get terrified that if I do it wrong, someone's going to come knock on my door and lock me up. So like, and it is very complex. I feel like it's really complicated, like unnecessarily, to do a tax return and pay your bills. But you know, you kind of get on with it and do the best you can.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you're doing that Open University course, because even if you're, you know, not someone who, you know, if you're someone who's creating content and maybe you just have an accountant do everything on that side, it's still important for you to have knowledge about what's going on, because you want to protect your money. You know, you don't want to hand it all over to someone else to sort out, and then you not realize what's going on. You read that about people in the public eye all the time. You know, they don't keep on track of it, and then suddenly they've had someone who's like ran away with all the money.
Yeah, that's the type of thing that would happen to me as well. It'd be something that I'm completely unaware of, and then suddenly I'll be in jail for fraud or something. I'm completely none the wiser. But yeah, that's why I like to keep it kind of closer to home.
And just in terms of life when you were a full-time content creator, did you find it hard to structure your days? Like being on your own watch, did you find that difficult or easy?
I think to start with, it was a little bit, actually, to be fair, to start with, because I was really eager and I was really loving creating content and things, it was quite easy to start with, because I just always wanted to be creating and things. But then as the time goes by, I still love creating content, but kind of giving myself the time to just be sat doing nothing for a day was becoming like fewer and further between. So trying to structure the days so that I could have some days off in between where I'm not, you know, filming my life to post online and stuff like that. And then, you know, waking up one day and saying, right, I'm going to film today, but then having no motivation whatsoever was quite difficult for a while. But I'm very much like a list kind of girl, like a to-do list. So if I write something down I use the reminders app on my phone.
I do the same. I love the reminders.
I have a little to-do list. And sometimes I break it down for the stuff I want to film. So like very specifically, like, you know, first clip, like make a coffee, for like second clip, talk about this and stuff. And I'll structure them kind of that way. So I make sure that I'm getting or trying to get some decent quality content in. Whereas if I kind of just left it as a free kind of, it would be terrible. So I need to be very regimented with my to-do lists and what I'm going to do.
Cool. And I didn't put this on the question list that I sent you before, but just wondering, as we're talking about content creation, do you have any advice so if someone's listening and they want to get started creating content, do you have any sort of words of wisdom of how to get started, what to do?
I would say, I think, like, you don't need big fancy cameras to get started. You don't need all the equipment. Start with your phone. These iPhones have got brilliant cameras on them, and like especially the back camera sometimes. You know, just set yourself up, do some tester videos that you don't post. You know, wrap your head around it a bit, and try and like work out the editing software. Again, you don't need to pay for the big fancy editing software straight away if you don't want to. I think I started using iMovie, which is completely free, comes with your Mac if you've got that. I'm not sure what it is on Windows, but there are some free editing software, or I think you can even do it on your phone. And just kind of do some like tester ones and see how you feel and whether it's something that you would want to be posted online, because you do have to remember once something's online, it's on there forever. So it doesn't matter if you delete it or whatever. People have got it somehow. So just go for it. I would say, what's the worst that could happen? People make a bit of fun. Well, so what?
Yeah.
There's plenty of things that people do these days that some people might not agree with, and there's things that I don't agree with, but I don't necessarily talk about. But you're never going to start something if you never start it.
Yeah.
So you might as well just do it and just see what happens. Just give a bit of I don't care attitude to it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Good advice. I like that. And you recently started working again as a community carer. So can you tell us a bit about what made you decide to go from working full-time as a content creator to mixing it with some employment?
So I'd worked in care previous to doing YouTube as well. I'd done that for like 7 years, worked in a hospital. So I kind of missed it a little bit. I kind of thought I missed that, like having colleagues, having someone who I'm going to, like people who I'm going to see during the day, because, my partner, he'll go off to work and I'll just be at home alone all the time. And it can, although you're posting out to potentially thousands of people, it's quite lonely because it is just literally me, the cat and the camera. So I kind of missed a bit of like going out there and stuff. And I also, another side of it was that I want to do something where I really feel like I'm giving back as well. And care's just that career that I've just always really enjoyed and always really wanted to do. So I just kind of do both now as keeps me level-headed and keeps me kind of in touch with the real world as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think even for me, I've got the flexibility with my job to work from home and work in the office. And when it was COVID time and I had to work from home, I found it so difficult to be by myself all day. And it's like you've got no one to bounce off. And it's like when I'm in the office, when I've got colleagues, even if I'm not working with them, even though I'm not chatting to them all day every day, I go to fill up my tea and I'm like, I'll have a little chat with you about how your weekend's been. And that human interaction is really nice, because sometimes I find myself, if I'm spent too long by myself, I'm just in my own head, and I just feel a bit trapped. So and so now that you're mixing both of them together, have you found that your finances have improved, or has scaling back on the content creation, is that had a negative effect?
I would say I think my finances are a bit better now with the second employment, just because I am kind of carrying on with the same amount of content creation as I was prior,
right.
But then just adding in the shifts as a care worker kind of on top of that. But I would say, actually, one thing I would say is that sometimes the amount of money that you earn from like YouTube isn't necessarily dependent on how much you upload or how many views you get. It's so Google are very quiet about how they calculate how much you earn, and I literally have yet to find out. But I would say in general, my finances are better, but you can never really tell with like how much you're going to earn on a month, depending on how much you upload. I think a prime example of that actually is Vlogmas. Vlogmas, you would think if people were uploading every single day and getting views and things, that they would be earning loads of money. December is the most oversaturated month with videos and content creation that I noticed. I think it was last year I did Vlogmas. I didn't do it this year, partly because I didn't have time and partly because of what happened last year. But essentially, like, my AdSense dropped like a significant amount, even though I was creating more content. And I just kind of think it wasn't worth the effort. But
that's really interesting. I think people would be surprised at hearing that, because I assume because so many people do Vlogmas, I always just assume there must be a lot in it for them. But I guess
it's really not. But in general, like sticking to my three videos a week and then 2 to 3 shifts a week at work is, my finances are generally a bit better at the moment. But we'll see how it goes.
Cool. Now, we're gonna have a little bit of a quiz. So I've got 3 questions for you. So are you
Okay.
in the mood for 3 little money related questions?
Oh yes, I'll probably be terrible at it, but I'll give it a go.
So we're going to start from well, I don't know if your class it is easiest to hardest, but it's just about the price of things in Newcastle. So the first thing I'm going to ask you, if you know or if you can guess the price of, is a Greg's sausage roll.
Oh, I feel like these have probably gone up,
Well, when I researched it, it had actually gone up a little.
I remember them being like 90 pence, but I feel like they're probably like 150.
Oh, I was thinking, you're maybe going to get it. No, £1.20. So you're in the
Okay.
ballpark, but
Right.
right. Next one is an all-day, all-zone metro day ticket. So for people who don't know, the metro is like the little tube style transport system we have in and around the Newcastle. So this gets you unlimited metro travel, and I think you can use the ferry on it all day.
Well, that's quite a good deal. Well, I don't know what the price of it is. As a driver, I don't really use the metro that often, so I think I want to say £4.80.
Oh, I wish it's £6.20.
No.
And then the last one, and this is a hard one. So, according to Rightmove, what is the average property price in Newcastle?
Oh, see, I feel like this has changed a lot recently as well because the housing market is shocking. Average.
Now, don't ask us I don't know if the average is a mean or a median. So I don't know if it's all skewed by the really expensive, Darrell properties, or whether it's like the sort of middle price.
I'm gonna very blindly guess like somewhere between 250 and 300,000.
Well, you might be surprised to hear it's £211,949.
Okay, that's not. Yeah, I can say that.
And I think listeners, if you're elsewhere, you might be jealous if you're living down south and you hear that's the average property price, because when you look at the stats from across the country, the northeast has the lowest property prices, which is really good, really, for people who live here, because it's such a nice place to live, and but a lower cost of living than living in London or down south. So just moving on to budgeting, how do you typically manage your money? So I remember how I discovered you originally was that you posted a video about cash stuffing. So cash stuffing is like this big sort of thing that's popular in the budgeting community. So people will take the money out in cash, and then they sort of put it in envelopes or put it away for different things. So I think, if I remember correctly, you might be putting some money for like saving for a kitchen, or like it might have been like, was it saving for a kitchen, or was it like putting some money in so that you had money for your car repairs in the future or something like that? But
it was, sorry, I was interrupting you there. I did actually start the cash stuffing last year or the year before or something like that. I don't actually do it anymore, but I am thinking of like starting it again, just like in the background. I'm not sure I'll make content around it, to be honest. But I found that really, really useful in terms of really like learning the value of money, because prior to that, we things like Apple Pay, you can pay for things just by simply touching your card on a card reader, and things are paid for. And it's almost like Monopoly money, isn't it? Like, you don't really think about what you're paying for. Whereas when I did start cash stuffing, having to actually hand over the money was more painful than tapping the card. So it did teach me a lot about the value of money, and it did actually help me save quite a lot. So I've got a bit of like an emergency fund, is what I call it. I actually transfer that into my Hyperjar account now.
Right, yeah.
And I've kind of got that for like rainy day purposes. But in terms of like the car, I think my sections that I had were things like food shopping. So I'd pay for my Aldi food shop weekly using cash. car payments, that would be things like saving up for my insurance, because I'd rather pay that in one lump sum than have to pay the interest.
Yeah.
So I'd save up a certain amount per month ready for what I predict my quote might be at the time when I need it. Gosh, what else did I have? Once for holiday, that was when I was like solo traveling things, putting away money for spending money and stuff for that. And I think, the emergency fund as well. And then any like leftover, I'd then put back in the bank and put in my Hyperjar account. But I did obviously keep the money for bills in my bank account. So I'd leave that amount of money in and then withdraw the rest, like the surplus and stuff. Now I don't, like I say, cash stuff. I kind of only stopped that because I was finding it a little bit annoying going to a cash machine, but having to go to two different ones because the maximum withdrawal is like £200 on one of them. Some of them charge to withdraw. Some places don't accept cash anymore in terms of making payments. So I kind of started to find it a little bit irritating in that aspect. But I would say it taught me a lot. And it was really beneficial for like learning, like I say, the value of money and stuff that you don't really learn in school either.
Yeah.
In terms of finances and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's really, I think for me, I guess I grew, and you'll be similar, I guess, is you were still but teenagers when you saw people using cash, and like my parents used to I used to see them pay for their shopping in cash. Like my mum would go to Asda and she'd be like, all right, how much is it? But now I remember speaking to one of my friends, and their little girl, she was maybe 7 or something, and she just thought that tapping money on a card that was unlimited. So if she wanted anything, she'd just like, oh, and her mum said, oh, you can't have that. She'd say, oh, well, why not? Just tap the card and I'll be able to get it. It's like trying to understand that, actually you're tapping the card, but you have to actually put the money in the bank account to pay for it. It is difficult. And do you consider yourself naturally a spender or a saver?
Spender, 100%. Yeah. I'm this type of person that if I want something that I know I can afford, I'll just buy it. But I'm good in terms of saving for stuff that I can't quite afford at the moment. Right. So like, if there's something in particular, I can't think of an example, but if there's something in particular that's like a little bit pricier, then I will start putting money aside for that. Sometimes my plans change. Like, you said before that I was saving for a kitchen. I'm not really anymore because my plans have changed in terms of how I want the house to be. So I think eventually it would be good to kind of get a new kitchen and stuff and start saving for that. But it's just not on my priority list at the minute. But I am very much a spender, unfortunately. So, yeah.
And do you think you would describe yourself as someone who's good with money?
Getting better.
Getting better. Oh, that's a good answer. I like that one.
Yeah, I don't think I used to be at all, but I think I'm getting better with it. Yeah.
I think sometimes I think it's like an innate thing. I think sometimes when like people are either more naturally like spenders or more naturally savers, like me and my partner. I don't know if it works in all relationships, but me and my partner are like opposite ends of the spectrum, but we'll both balance each other out because I'm more a saver. But he's more a spender, so he brings out the spending side of me. So he'll be like, oh, you only live once, let's do something fun. But then I'll rein him in when he's got grand plans of like spending all our money on a holiday. I'm like, no, wait, we need an emergency fund. We need a bit of a safety net. And just in terms of financial goals, so do you have any long-term goals like, moving house or retirement or traveling in the future? Anything that you're thinking you'd like to do that requires money?
I think I would like to move house at the minute, like not at the minute, but eventually. I live in a 1-bedroomed house, which a lot of people haven't heard of, but it is literally just it's like upstairs, downstairs, but just has 1 bedroom in it. Right. And it's very small, and it was brilliant for being my first house and getting me on the property ladder, but for having a family and things like that, it's just not going to be practical. So I would like to move to a bigger house at some point. Not sure when, though. There's that's a very kind of distant future for me kind of thing. But in terms of like Other things, retirement again. I feel like I'll probably die before I retire. The way these ages are going up, like, but I do have a pension, so that's kind of putting back into them. I would like to get a private pension as well. I think to just kind of put some extra money aside. But yeah, I think that's about it. Just to be nicely comfortable.
Yeah. That's a good goal to have. And just in terms of 2024, do you have any things that you're saving for this year or that you're trying to do with your finances this year?
I would like a new car. I would like a new car. Mine's fine, to be honest. It's just like, I just want a bit of an upgrade, if I'm honest. But again, that's something that I'm not going to rush into buying. I'm going to wait until I've got the money for it. But I actually have a premium bonds account, which I've been really struggling to get into. So I think I want to get that, be able to log on first, because I've had loads of problems with logging on. So I need to be able to log on first and then start kind of putting my premium bonds in. Because I think that's kind of an easy way of saving, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I've been starting to get more into premium bonds and using that as my one of my emergency funds. And then I'm like, I've maybe got £1,000 in it at the moment, and I'm trying to contribute maybe £100 each month because I've never won anything on premium bonds, and I'm determined to get to the month where I get the notification you've won £25, and I'll be like, oh yes. So that's similar to one of my goals. It's trying to put a bit more into premium bonds, because for me, I find if it's in premium bonds, it's a bit harder to touch, because when I've got it in a bank, like my second bank account, it's just so easy to move the money across.
Just a couple of buttons and it's gone.
And just in terms of personal goals, is there anything that you want to achieve in terms of your Instagram or YouTube channel this year?
To be honest, just to carry on, I'm quite happy with how it's going. I think that, some people have a number that they want to aspire to, they want to get 100,000 subscribers or whatever. But I'm quite happy with what I've got at the minute, and I've got a lovely little community of people who regularly comment and things like that. So if it grows, great, but I'm not gonna kind of focus on that too much, and I'm just enjoying creating content for the people that I've got already, kind of thing. But in terms of I think, to be honest, just carry on this year and just to keep myself happy in the things that I'm doing and not put too much pressure on myself.
Yeah. And do you have any personal, non-work related goals? Have you got anything in your personal life that you're trying to achieve this year?
I did actually, do you know, it's terrible. I did set some resolutions, but I completely forgot what they are already, which is not good. Which, to be fair, I think it's quite common. But I think one of them was, completely unrelated to money or anything, but I wanted to try and sort out my wardrobe in terms of not just having everything all black and grey.
Right.
I'm very much a hoodie and a leggings kind of girl, and that's it. So I kind of want to expand my fashion into a little bit different kind of styles and stuff. But there's nothing major on that list of things to do, because I think whenever I set something huge to do, I'm never going to do it. Really not going to do it.
Sometimes you feel as if you put pressure on yourself, don't you? Because then if you don't achieve it, you're like, oh, I can never do it, So great. Well, I'm at the end of my questions. Was there anything you wanted to get off your chest before we end? Anything I haven't asked you about money or all things the Slice of Jess?
No, I don't think so. I think we've covered majority.
Cool. Well, I've had a really good chat about the money side of content creation. It's been great to chat to you. I've watched you for a while, and it's been great to speak to you. And you'll see me in your comments section going forward, especially if you're talking about anything money in your vlogs. I'll be like, "Ooh, good, go on, well done." So great. But and people can find you on YouTube and Instagram. Is your handle the same on both? Is it the Slice of Jess?
Yeah,
on both
it's the Slice of Jess. Yeah, I am on TikTok as well, but I very rarely post on there, if I'm honest. But just the Slice of Jess.
Great. All right. Well, we'll finish it there. And thanks everyone for listening. If you've got this far, and I'll see you on the next episode.